Coming up this week on Sporting Journal Radio. That was the problem with the roundtable. It's not a roundtable.
Things that aren't ever really going to happen.
When I have to sit there and be told that statistics show when temperatures are warmer, you're more likely to fall through the ice.
The other thing that's kind of a progression in the wintertime is the ice bars.
Not very hungry when the fire department's there.
I fish, I hunt, and always will. Broadcasting from the Eau Claire Outdoors Studios. Presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. We're not just a radio show anymore. This is Sporting Journal Radio. That's right. Welcome to the show. My name is Bret Amundson, along with Dan Amundson and David Eckhart. How you doing, fellas?
We're good.
Good. Do we want to continue the conversation we were just having before the show started about plugging certain things?
Probably not.
Okay. Just wanted to check.
No, like the floor drain downstairs, since my water heater's leaking all over the place.
Could plug that. Yep.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. We got a lot to get to, including our recent trip. We went to the Twin Cities for the DNR Roundtable. We'll give you our thoughts on how the roundtable went, what we thought of it, what we didn't like about it, what they talked about. We'll also talk about this. We got a new contest coming, guys. Well, how long have we been talking about doing a contest on this show?
A while.
Well, the bracket.
Well, the bracket
I just spoiled it. Shoot.
The bracket idea is kind of new.
Yeah.
But we've been trying to figure out some sort of contest to get you involved more with this show, give away some prizes, things like that. So I think we got it figured out now.
Well, we have something figured out. Let's see if it works. I guess we need participants.
Yeah. So we need your help.
Could be real humbling if it doesn't work.
We'll tell you what that is. We'll talk about our videos to watch on YouTube, what we saw this week that we think you might be interested in. We're also going to continue the barotrauma discussion. Now, this whole thing started with a DNR study that they did last year out on the ice. It was a pilot study. Angling Buzz filmed it. I heard about it, got all excited about it because I feel like barotrauma is a really important subject and we need to learn more about it and get the education out to the public about it. So we're going to go out and do some filming with those guys as well too. So we'll be talking to them about some of the differences in the study this year compared to last year and what they're hoping to accomplish a little bit later in the show. Also get a word from Joe Henry up at Lake of the Woods and more. But first, Dan, who are the sponsors this week?
Lake of the Woods Tourism. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital. Plan a trip to Lake of the Woods at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic is March 8th, 9th, and 10th at Canterbury Park in Shakopee. Learn more at mndeerclassic.com. Haybell Heights Campground and Resort. Fish out of a snow bear on Devil's Lake. Learn more at haybellheights.com. And Prairie Sportsman, the new season is underway. You get to watch those episodes anytime at the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel.
That is one of the videos to watch. We had our season premiere last week of Prairie Sportsman on Pioneer PBS. You can watch for the show on a PBS station near you. Just check your guide, your local listings, as they say, or just go to the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel and check it out. It is a brand new episode right now on the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel with a second one coming this Sunday. We went on a veteran cast and blast. We talked about it a little bit last week on the show, so just go check it out. And then we learn a little bit more about early life in western Minnesota before the European settlers arrived.
This week we go elk hunting.
Oh, yeah.
In Minnesota.
This is something I've been trying to film for Prairie Sportsman for a long time. But when there's only a small number of tags, in fact, this year in Minnesota, it was 17, or last year in Minnesota, I guess, 17 tags available for hunters. And so very few state hunters had a chance to get tags. So trying to get somebody that you want to follow with a camera as they hunt a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in Minnesota, it's not easy. Not everybody wants that pressure, the curse of the camera, as they say, chasing you around. So we got really, really fortunate that Scott Moon invited us along to film him on his hunt, and we got to interview Evan Bernstrom while we were up there after his hunt. He shot a really nice animal, and you'll be able to see just a wicked elk hunt in Minnesota. And there's some of you listening or watching this right now that are going, wait a minute. There's elk. You may not even know that there's elk in Minnesota. Not only are there some in the Northwest, we will be getting some more in the Northeast starting in 2026. So we'll have more about that probably later. That's something we learned a little bit more about that at the roundtable this year, Dan.
Well, you sat in on that. I stuck to the fishing side of things for the most part. When we had a choice of what we were listening to people talk about, we didn't always have a choice. We were talked to about a lot of things. So we want to get into that. Is that your segue into talking about the roundtable?
It sure was. I'm a trained professional.
Well, I wasn't sure. Sometimes we don't follow each other's agendas.
Oh, do you have an agenda, Dan?
No, but
like maybe
the government does.
The government?
Yeah. You know, the roundtable was a lot of fun for the most part. Once we got out of the opening session, we got to the first 2 hours we were there. It wasn't an open discussion really. There was a lot of talking to us and a lot about climate change. And climate change, say what you want about it. You know, trends are showing, things are getting warmer. But when I have to sit there and be told that statistics show when temperatures are warmer, you're more likely to fall through the ice and stuff like that for 2 hours, and then listen to like, okay, thanks for wasting my time. And then also the other consequence of the 2 hours that now are open discussions that were actually good about forward-facing sonar, about other technologies, about the future of WMAs, like important topics. The reason we went there to have these discussions were cut so short because we had to spend half of our day or whatever, a quarter of our day listening to young professionals, which is fine. You know, if we want to have those discussions, that's fine. But I really would like to see more open discussion with all of us instead of just listening to the governor, Sarah Stroman, and a high schooler, a couple college students talk about climate change. Yeah. You know, it was kind of frustrating, and a lot of people tuned out. There was some good things shared, but a lot of it was like, I didn't feel like we got anything done in those 2 hours. And then when the time came where it actually felt like we were trying to get things done, it was too short. We just get into a good discussion and it's over, we're out of time. You know, like the one time you're trying to ask a follow-up question because the guy answering your question, I don't think fully understood it. Right. And whoever had the microphone was like, oh, we got to let other people speak. You know, it's like,
walk away from me.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute.
Come on. You know, so there's some good stuff happening, but I think a lot of the good stuff happened in the hallways in between.
And honestly, that's the way it's been for the last few years when I've gone there. From everybody that I talked to that has been to the roundtable historically, they say it used to be more like that. It was more of a give and take throughout the entire day. And I had to get talked into going this year because of the last time I was there. That's the way it was. It's like, I feel like the first couple hours we're in this big room and they have the governor speak, which is, you know, it's nice to have the governor talk and the DNR commissioner, and you want to hear from them a little bit on things, but it's not like you get to ask them questions.
No, that's it. Like,
it's not like
they'll advertise it as like, oh, the governor's here to listen to the people. The governor didn't listen to a dang thing. The governor spoke and then left. And I get, he's obviously a busy guy. He's got things to do, a pretty important job to do. But
and you can imagine like how much of a how downhill that would go if somebody could ask the governor any questions in that room.
But at the same time, even if he, you know, it'd just be nice to have him listen to more of these discussions, because otherwise what it takes is a group like Minfish to bring up our issues for the government to listen.
That's 100% correct. And that's why, you know, we filmed a story with Minfish this weekend too, and the advocacy work that they're doing, the fact that they got paid lobbyists at the Capitol, making sure that fishing is at top of mind with our legislation, with our legislators. And that was the problem with the roundtable. It's not a roundtable. When you think roundtable, you think about, let's talk about some of the pressing topics, pressing issues of today and discuss them and give our stakeholders a chance to speak their mind. And literally it was the first 2 hours we sat and got spoken to about climate change. And they did explain some things like the more funding and where, you know, some actually brought up, I think Governor Walz brought up Minfish and some of the work that Minfish
he loves
has
Minfish. He's proud of Minfish for sure.
Which is great. Yep. But then for an hour, we had these three young kids up there. I mean, it literally felt like, and no offense to those three kids that were up there. I feel like I don't want this to be anything negative towards them because they're just trying to do something that they feel is important to them. But I literally was waiting for Greta Thunberg to come walking out on stage and going, how dare you, to us while we're sitting there just like, we're here to talk about fishing and wildlife management areas. And all of a sudden we're getting lectured to about climate change from these kids. So, you know, good for them for stepping up and being in a room full of, I mean, as a 17, that one girl was 17, being in a room full of 400 outdoors people
with the governor. That's intimidating
for sure. So, but that's that, and so I'm not blaming them. I'm blaming the you know, the DNR Roundtable organizers and planners, because like Dan said, once we get into the sessions where we talk about there's wildlife, WMA and AMA planning. And even then it was just kind of glossing over the details, and then he could ask a question. And I think like 2 or 3 questions got asked and like, oh, we have to move on now to the next thing. And you get shuttled around to another room. So there was definitely not enough time to discuss the actual issues. And like 3 or 4 hours of the day, almost half the day was dedicated to just sitting back and listening to things we could have gotten in a press release.
Right. You're not getting anything done there.
I literally learned more. The press release that we're going to bring up here in a little bit that we got or in our email, I literally learned more from that press release about this topic than when they talked about it
for 2 hours.
For 2 hours at the roundtable. So,
and let me ask this. Hey, so David, if we want to think hunting in Minnesota, what are like the 3 species that you think are probably the biggest things people hunt in Minnesota?
Whitetails.
Yep.
Pheasants.
Yep.
And then probably fishing for walleyes.
Well, let's hunting specifically.
Stay on hunting.
Stay on hunting.
Yeah.
All right. So
don't overthink it.
gross.
No, we all do it.
No, it's a bigger one than that. Way bigger. Like probably rivals whitetail in Minnesota. Close.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's not quite.
I don't know. Do I do
Ducks.
it?
Waterfowl.
Ducks.
Oh yeah, ducks.
Not one thing about waterfowl all day in this entire roundtable.
Or pheasants.
No, barely pheasants.
I don't think. Well, you would know. I guess I stuck to fishing, so I shouldn't say. But
barely pheasants, and even at that, they didn't really. I mean, I think Governor Walz talked about how habitat for pheasants can benefit everybody because of clean water and benefits to the environment. Which
he's
is
right,
true. And it also benefits nesting waterfowl and deer and pollinators and songbirds and all that stuff. So grassland is just great habitat for the environment in general and all its little critters that live there. But you're right. And the last time I was there was 1 hour dedicated to pheasants and ducks. So the whole day was a little bit of deer. At that time, a little bit of wolves, a lot of climate change. A photo on the cover of the program with somebody holding a reel upside down. And then just like I was there for pheasants and waterfowl, and it was just crammed into one little tiny session. And that's when I got real mad and didn't go back. And I got talked into it to this year. And there was a little bit they had the big game. So whitetail were crammed in with moose and elk. And that discussion became mostly elk because of this Northeast relocation plan. So there's barely anything about deer. Fishing, to be fair, I stayed in that technology seminar 2 times in a row.
Yeah. Well, but that was really the only thing that was fishing that afternoon. In the morning, we talked about climate change, how it's affecting fish, and how warming water temperatures is affecting trout.
Yeah.
There's something to that there. And then, oh gosh, what was the first one?
Well, there was minnows.
It was minnows and then rough fish. So they're looking at putting bag limits on rough fish and trying to change the notion on rough fish being a rough fish, and that they're fun to fish for. Some of them are really tasty, and they're just trying to get people to understand that they're an important part of our ecosystem, the native rough fish. So they're going to be called native rough fish, not just rough fish, because I think a lot of people are roping them in with like Asian carp or
the
invasive carp and thinking like a sheephead is an invasive fish and trying to kill them all. And that's not the case. They're a part of our ecosystem, and they're a cool fish. So interesting stuff there, but it was funny how a lot of those conversations, whether it was about trout or rough fish, very quickly spun. It was open up to questions, spun to walleyes. That's what people wanted to talk about was walleyes. I didn't hear a largemouth bass brought up hardly at all, which shocked me because that's a big issue too. Is people are trying to get year-round fishing for largemouth or all bass, and bass weren't really discussed at all.
The only time I heard bass get discussed is when Mark Boccigalupi was giving Mandy Urick and some of the other bass anglers a hard time, saying they were easier to catch than walleyes.
Well, he's right.
He is right. That was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, there were some moments, and obviously the biologists there were great. Like Mark was great, and I'm kind of tied in with that technology work group, so I believe in that cause. So I'm kind of tied in closely with that discussion, and that I thought was a good one. We could have definitely used some more time to talk about that, because not only did they rope technology like forward-facing sonar into the session, but they tied it in even like trail cameras and
all technology of hunting and
fishing. So not just technology and fishing, but technology and hunting and fishing. So it just, to me, it goes to show you that what we've always said, the biologists, the boots on the ground, they have some important subjects that a lot of us are interested in. So they bring those topics to the forefront, yet you have, say, an administration that cares about different things, such as climate change, things like that, and they make that the forefront of their agenda at the roundtable. And then you break off into these little groups and have discussions that can have some actual meaningful impacts coming out of this roundtable. So It was good to be there. It was good to see a bunch of guys. Had a great time there.
Yep.
Really, I'm not here to completely bash the roundtable, other than
I am.
other than like half of it, where we just sat there and got lectured to about things that it's like,
Yep.
I just want to go catch more walleyes, man. Like, geez.
Speaking of that beginning, we should bring up that press release. Then we got to talk about our competition
Sure.
before we run out of too much time here. But let's break down that press release because there was good stuff to learn about.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see where our money's going.
So last year, MnFish was a big part of this. They really were able to get a lot of money secured for improvements in the fishing side of things here in Minnesota, including some access improvements and things like that. So they have this Get Out More investments. So MORE, Modernize Outdoor Recreation Experiences. So it's $150 million, $149.9 million. And what broke down $35.4 million to enhance access and welcome new users to public lands and outdoor recreation facilities. So when you say that, welcome new users to public lands, that's what I've struggled with all along. Like, anyone can go use these public lands. So is it an outreach? Is it education? Like, I don't understand. I know there was a guy in a wheelchair there, and he said, I can't go to this place because the gate is too narrow. I can't get my wheelchair through there, or there's no, path, which I just hope that they don't start putting in, paved paths through all our WMAs, because that's just going to degrade the habitat. And but there are areas, particularly close to metro areas, where you can have some sort of public land that could be accessible for people, with wheelchairs. Or $1 million is actually going in for track chairs and other adaptive equipment, which I think is great. Then they could go wherever they want. They wouldn't need some sort of paved path to be able to access this land. So if they could get like those action track chairs are awesome. I've seen those. I've hunted with people using those before. Those are great. So $15 million will be for accessibility improvements, $9.4 million for roads. So I don't know if there's
Might be just roads getting to WMAs. I mean, how many spots are in, they're just sketchy, hard to get into or
2-track grass road.
Those are the best ones, though, because
They are
they're hard
the
to get
best
into.
ones.
Right.
That makes them good for hunting.
But honestly, it's part of that. I wonder.
Buy a
is-
pickup.
Part of
Get
it,
in
I
there.
wonder. Hang on, Bret. I wonder if part of that is like easement roads to some landlocked stuff
That
or
could be.
tricky.
Yeah.
It might be new stuff that's actually you
Which we need.
physically can't get there.
$8 million for hiking and paved trail surface improvements. So I don't know if they're just going to improve current paved trails or if they're going to be adding some. I know when all this was going down a couple of years ago and they were discussing improvements to WMAs to make them more accessible, they had talked about creating new areas close to metro locations so that people from the city had a place close. They wouldn't have to drive, say, all the way out to western Minnesota to get on some public land. So if you create some of these areas, maybe, closer to metros, maybe even where you can't hunt, maybe they're inside some sort of city limit, but they can make it like, maybe that'd be a park and trail department at that point. But anyway, $2 million for improved wayfinding and signs. Like, I could have just bought the DNR and OnX membership, I guess. But there are some places that they could use some new signs. I still see WMA signs from like the 70s occasionally. You get on the backside of some of these old WMAs. And
People probably keep stealing them because they're so cool.
I want one real bad. I'm not going to lie. I've come real close. I haven't done it. I've come real close to taking one of those old ones because they're not supposed to be out there anymore anyway. They're outdated. But then $1 million for the track chairs and other adaptive equipment. That's great. Modernize camping and related infrastructure. So they're going to do $5 million for a pilot to modernize experiences at Minneopa State Park with a campground designed with larger accessible sites and modernized facilities and improve wayfinding and trails. And $4.5 million for renewing wastewater infrastructure at is it Meyer Big Island State Park? And then so then this is one. Do we need to take a break, Dan, or should we keep talking about this?
Well, we're out of time for 2 segments anyways. So do whatever you want, I guess.
All right. Well, and then this is one that's important because we just filmed some stuff about this. $60 million for enhancing fisheries and fishing infrastructure. They're trying to... We toured the St. Paul Fish Hatchery, which is the oldest one in the state of Minnesota, and the people that work there are great because they still create fish. They make the fish there, but they're doing it in a really old building. So to be able to make it state of the art across the state, like they're going to put $24 million into the Waterville hatchery, $19 million into the Crystal Springs hatchery, and $12 million for various other ones. I think they're going to put maybe a couple of million into the St. Paul one. And then they've got $5 million set aside for increased shore fishing opportunities. So if you're somebody that doesn't have a boat or just fishes from shore, they're going to create some more access to shore opportunities, some more fishing piers, things like that. There's a few other things that have been earmarked, including modernizing the boat accesses. So, Dan, we asked about that a little bit and what that meant exactly. And $30 million was for 40 to 60 large-scale projects, which will include accessible features, stormwater improvements, aquatic invasive species prevention, healthy shorelines, and accessible ramps for non-motorized boats. So back in the day when a lot of these boat ramps were built, they were for 14 to 16-foot boats. And what do you see when you're on the lakes now?
Bigger boats.
Bigger boats. So these ramps needed to be bigger. They needed to be in better shape. They need to be able to handle changes in the weather. They need to be able to handle stormwater runoff. We've got more stormwater runoff now, so they want to try to keep some of that runoff from getting into the lake. So, and then they got some AIS things they're going to be doing there too. So a lot of money going towards that. So some things that we definitely need. All right. So do we have time to talk about anything else, or is that about it?
Well,
we kind of blew all our time on the.
There's going to be a lot of the discussion that ends up on the podcast only. So if you're listening on our 30 radio stations, go download the podcast too, because every week there's stuff that doesn't make the radio show that is in the podcast. So if you want exclusive content, go to the podcast, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, sportingjournalradio.com, places like that.
More from Sporting Journal Radio coming up when we come back.
852 million acres of public land, 147 million private properties, all in the palm of your hand. The #1 hunting GPS app just got better. With hundreds of custom map layers, 3D and topographic maps, you can easily scout on the road or at home before you go. And now you can get important weather details, CWD detection, and even know what crops have been planted where. Get the most trusted hunting GPS app ever made. OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. Ice fishing season is here. This winter, plan a trip to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Not only will you have the chance to catch their legendary perch, but this year, Haybale Heights has been catching big walleye after big walleye. And they're doing it from a mobile, comfortable snow bear. No matter how cold it is outside, you're warm and toasty on the inside. Learn more and book a trip today at haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. All right, we're back. This is Sporting Journal Radio. Thanks for tuning in on the network by demand, sportingjournalradio.com, or by downloading the podcast, subscribing to it, or watching this on YouTube. Thank you very much. Make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast and share this with your friends. And comment below on stuff, too, including what we're going to talk about next, because this is a way that you're going to win some stuff. We got to come up with prizes for this, too.
Well, I would suggest...
Brand new car!
Oh, are you buying the car? Are you paying for it?
No.
Well, let's wait on the car until we get a little bit bigger with the show for now. Or if
all right. So if you want a brand new car, share this with. Make sure all of your friends and not friends are watching, listening to the show. The more people that watch the show, the more cars we can give away.
That's right. Or if there's a car dealership out there that wants to work with us, hint, hint. Then maybe we can get something going. All right, so we got a new contest coming here, and it's going to require your participation because you could win stuff. Not quite a car yet, but maybe soon. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. But definitely some gear from the Fish Hunt Forever Sporting Journal Radio store. Maybe some Cast King stuff or something. Maybe. Or all right. Some of the other stuff that we got out there. So what's going to be the contest?
So last week we talked about the best feeling while ice fishing. And so we asked for some submissions of what you thought the best feeling while ice fishing was. And so we took some of those, and the three of us kind of came up with our favorite things. And we have a list of 16 best feelings while ice fishing. So those 16 things are going to square off in a bracket until we determine a big winner. So we have all 16 here ready to rock and roll. And so the way this will work is this bracket is live on sportingjournalradio.com, and we'll also post it on Facebook and Instagram. So if you're not following us on Instagram or Facebook, do that, sporting.journal.radio on Facebook, or Instagram, excuse me, and just search Sporting Journal Radio on Facebook, or go to our website. You can find it all there. But each week, so this will be once a week, 4 rounds, 4 weeks, this contest will happen. You're going to have to go to our Instagram story. And should we say Tuesdays? Let's make it Tuesdays. Tuesday mornings, go to our Instagram. And on the story, the Instagram story, there's going to be polls. And you got to vote for your winner of each matchup. And as that goes on, we'll break down the bracket. And we'll have a winner after 4 weeks. But we also need you to go either on this YouTube video or on the posts on Facebook or Instagram, comment who you think is going to be the winner. And if you pick the winner, you are going to be in for a prize. Now, if there's multiple people that pick the same winner, then we're going to have to do a draw.
Sure.
But if you pick the winner, the item that is winning the bracket, you're in for some prizes. But we should meet our contestants. What do you think?
Ladies and gentlemen, come on down.
All right. Our first matchup, best feeling while ice fishing. I think this is the number 1 seed, the flag.
Oh, and the flag
goes up. Everyone yells flag, and you all run for it. It's a pretty good feeling. Or this was a submission from a listener, fishing open water.
A listener named Dan?
No, actually Wade.
Okay.
Yes, and I don't disagree with him. Fishing open water. He doesn't like ice fishing.
All right, so I'm going to ask you two, because David, you've probably fished with tip-ups more than I do.
Yep.
And Dan, you like open water fishing more than hard water fishing.
That is correct.
Which one do you guys think is better? I want to have you guys debate it.
I'd say flag.
How about this, though, David? You can have a flag in open water.
We found one in open water last year.
Planer board flag.
Oh,
that is true, but
David likes planer
it's the
board.
best feelings of ice fishing.
It is ice fishing, so it's really hard to say that's the best feeling of ice fishing. I don't even know why that made the contest.
Yeah, well,
it's in there
move on
now.
to the next one.
It's too late.
All right,
So
let's go to the next one.
All right, matchup number 2. When the beer doesn't freeze, and then when your wife, or it could be your husband or whoever, when your spouse says, stay as long as you want.
Oh.
That.
See, David, you're the only one married here, so.
Yeah.
I can fish
Just go fish as long as you want.
So for Dan and I, it's definitely going to be the beer one.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want things that aren't ever really going to happen, saying your wife can stay fishing as long as you want is probably going to be it.
Now I should change that actually, because it's not just your beer, it's your beverage. There's people that don't drink beer.
Yeah.
We don't want them to be unincluded. So if when your sun drop doesn't freeze, that's a good day. I like sun drop.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm definitely gonna. Well, I can't vote for. I don't know what the second one's like. I don't know that feeling. So when your beer doesn't freeze, that's my pick.
All right, what's next?
All right, we've got. This is a good one. Well, they're all good ones. I'm gonna say that for everyone. It's like when you say that we have a good show coming up.
They're all good
Good
ones.
show coming up.
Absolutely.
When the bobber goes down, or when your ATV or snowmobile or whatever ice rig, maybe it's a snow bear, whatever, when it fires up first try.
I was going to say when your bobber goes down, but I was having some battery issues with my four-wheeler this weekend, and it did not want to start. So when you're in the middle of the lake and it fires off, that's a pretty good feeling.
It is.
So I've got a trick now on my snowmobile. So I think it's like a 96 Indy 500. I think it's a 96. And I'll choke it. So I always say open the choke, but I feel like that's you're actually closing it. So I choke it, I pull it twice, then I turn the choke off, and I pull it, and it starts. It's almost every time. And before I figured that trick out, and I can't remember, somebody gave me that tip, I don't know, but I was sitting and pull that thing till my arm fell off. So I definitely get the feeling of starting it up on the first pull. Even the third pull for me is a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an ATV or anything, so might be the bobber. I think I like watching a bobber go down more than I like seeing a flag go up.
Yeah, well, I do too, because I just don't use.
Because realistically, like you don't get to see the tip up go off too often. You just kind of look out your window and go, "Oh shoot,
flag is up."
We're watching the bobber like. That was a great visualization for radio listeners.
Nailed it.
But I like
sound
that.
effects help.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is pretty cool though when you do actually you just happen to be looking at a tip up and you see the
Yep.
see the
Watch
flag
the
pop
tip
up.
ups never go. Never, ever, ever, ever. You want my number one tip?
Don't watch them.
Don't watch them. Turn your back. It's like watched water. You want
Boil.
Watch
yeah.
pot doesn't boil.
that
Something
one.
like that.
So
All right, what's next?
next we have when you get that first mark on your flasher or live scope or whatever you're using, or when your bait doesn't die, whether it's dying while you're fishing, or when I initially wrote this one down, it was like if you go fishing on the weekend and then you have leftover minnows or wax worms or spikes, and you go back Saturday morning to go back out the next weekend and it's still alive, you don't have to buy more bait.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
I think that's an awesome feeling.
It is, but for a guy like me that doesn't use live bait very much anymore,
You don't use live bait ice fishing?
not very
How do you
often.
catch walleyes?
Bare hands.
When's the last time you caught a walleye ice fishing?
That's a great question. It was mostly crappie fishing last year. Most of the time we were catching them on like live targets, the rattle baits.
Yeah.
I didn't use any
No bait.
on them. And then the erratic shiner looks like a minnow, so a lot of times I didn't have any bait on it. So I didn't use live bait hardly at all last winter.
I buy live bait and then I kill it and then fish with it.
Well, I'll use a minnow head, yeah.
That's but ice. Yeah, I'm a proponent of not using live bait when you can, but ice fishing, I definitely am still on that crutch.
Well, someday you'll be good enough, Dan.
Okay.
What's next?
Yeah. Well, next up we have. I like this one. This one's a good one. Let me share the screen. When your pizza timer goes off in the wheelhouse, or when the sled pulls itself. So like when there's no snow on the ice, it's just slick, and you're not even pulling the sled, and it just kind of glides right next to you. I think that's pretty awesome. But when you're sitting there at like 2 p.m. in a wheelhouse or hard house,
2 a.m.
Yeah.
sure, and ding, that pizza's done, or pizza rolls, or
Pizza rolls are done on the
mozzarella
pizzazz.
sticks.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a winner. That might go the whole way, honestly.
That's a pretty good one.
That is a good one.
That could be. That's like a 12-5 matchup right there if you're a March Madness fan. And that's the 12 seed that's going to go all the way.
There is something about when you're walking on ice that has just a little bit of snow, like just little patches of snow, just enough snow that you can walk on it without slipping, but you can drag your sled next to you and it just slides on its own.
And usually it's early ice too, so people are just jacked up to be on the ice. And so you're just excited, like that first day out. If you're one of those weirdos who's excited to ice fish, and the sled's just gliding along, and it's a good feeling.
Oh, yeah.
But
All right.
next up, we have when the rattle reel goes off. It's a lot of dead stick options here, but all of them are good. Or when you don't lose your phone down the hole.
See, I think this feels like a 1 versus 16 right here.
Yeah.
Which is the one?
The one is the rattle reel.
Are you
for
sure?
Oh gosh, that may be the greatest sound. Anyone that's ice fished, that may be the greatest sound in the history of noises.
And just be in a dead sleep. And
yeah,
hear
that'll
it
wake
start
you up.
Going and you're wide awake.
What wakes you up faster, when your dog's about to throw up, or when the rattle reel goes off?
It's a very similar reaction to
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, I mean the rattle reel's probably going to win that one. But I'll tell you what, when you walk away, especially if you're with a buddy who just lost his phone down the hole and you still have yours, you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, and we know a few guys that have lost multiple phones down the hole, so that they may be voting differently than
Yeah,
us. But
exactly.
I've never jumped down from a top bunk in a fish house faster than when a rattle reel goes off, and especially when you're racing a buddy. It's almost like running towards a flag, like you're trying to beat your buddy to the rattle reel just as much.
Very
so.
very similar options there. Next up,
How
we
many
have
of these are left?
16
Eight,
teams, so 8
3?
matchups. We got a few left here.
Sounds good.
When the generator runs through the night, so this is for you wheelhouse folks, when you don't have to get up in the cold and refill the generator, or when you're fishing and say you're fishing outside and your holes aren't freezing over, so you're not constantly smashing your holes open.
I think for someone that's had to get up in the middle of a blizzard to refill the generator, that's a pretty good one.
I like fishing outside though, staying mobile. So
See, this
I'm
is
gonna
it.
go with the hole not freezing up.
It's going to be a matchup of who owns a wheelhouse and who
Yeah,
doesn't.
for sure.
You know, because guys who don't own a wheelhouse don't know what that's like, and they're going to say the holes. So I guess we might find out who owns wheelhouses and who doesn't.
It's funny. You can be woken up equally as fast from a rattle reel as you can when you hear the when you hear the Jenny start to die. But your reaction time is different. Like you're like, oh, it's cold outside. I wonder
See
if
if
somebody
somebody
else
else
hears
yeah.
the generator going out. first.
Yeah.
But the rattle reel, no, jumping up out of bed. All right, what's next?
This is the last one.
All right.
And I think one of these is going to be what wins the whole thing. This might be this would be another 12-5 matchup if this was a thing of 64 teams, but it's not. When the fire department doesn't show up, specifically if you're on Upper Red Lake, or when you're out there fishing and your buddy shows up with more snacks or more beer, something like that, I definitely say when the fire department doesn't show up. As a guy who's been out there, when the fire department does show up, it's pretty nice to just fish and go home and not get made fun of on social media.
That's great.
I'm going to go with the snacks because you can never have too many snacks.
Yeah.
You're not very hungry when the fire department's there.
I must be weird because I'm not a big snacker generally when I'm hunting or fishing. Now,
So you're a big snacker at home.
at home is a different story for sure. Or if we're in like an ice castle that we're going to be in all weekend, I'll eat the entire time, like the entire time. But I feel like when I'm in a portable or even if we're in the boat half the time, I don't even really like to eat in the boat. I don't know what it is.
Only when I break out my fruit snacks.
Oh yeah, then I gotta have
You got,
some. I
got any
smell.
more of those?
Yeah, I'm
An
like,
extra
those-
one.
Yeah.
those smell pretty
Yeah,
good.
I do, Brett. I do.
And like Sam Soholtz never goes snackless. Like when I'm in a tree stand. Now, granted, I don't stay in the tree stand all day like he
You
does.
sit for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's the best.
Go home. How many deer did you shoot this year?
0. But to be fair, it took him as long as it ever has to shoot a deer this year too. He
But
was
he
there.
shot
He did shoot one, yeah. Well, I shot at one. I should have had one.
Maybe if you'd have had a snack.
That's probably what was wrong. All right, so what do people have to do, Dan?
So, again, go to our website, sportingjournalradio.com. You can see this full bracket, or it'll be posted on our social media on Instagram and Facebook. Comment on either this YouTube video, comment below, or go to our social media. If you're listening on the radio, go to any of the above, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Comment your winner, and then each Tuesday for the next 4 weeks, go to our Instagram story. And we'll be sure to post about this all over social media. Go to our Instagram story Tuesdays, vote on the winner, and in 4 weeks we will have an overall winner, which if I had to take a pick, it's going to be the fire department. Everyone who comments the winner below, and so you got to have your comments in by the time we start this, because if there's comments showing up right as the last round starts, you're not going to win. That's cheating. So you got to get your comments in before Tuesday. That's going to be January, hang with me, 31st. Jan 31st. No, is it? I was looking at the October calendar. It's going to be Jan 30th.
October.
Yeah.
Why are you looking at October?
Know. I have no idea.
It's
January
January.
30th. Have your comments in. So I guess by the 29th, I guess.
Yeah,
So-
I suppose. Well, we'll put all the details on the website.
It's on our
'cause
website.
Hard to follow for me, and I'm sitting next to
Yeah,
you.
sorry. SportingJournalRadio.com. Go there. Check it all out. You can win some sweet gear and pick your winner. Best feelings while ice fishing.
Very cool. All right. That's going to be a fun one. All right, we're going to hear from Joe Henry, get a Lake of the Woods fishing report when we come back on Sporting Journal Radio.
Don't miss the 2024 Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic, presented by Select Heartland Chevy Dealers at Canterbury Park in Shakopee, March 8th, 9th, and 10th. This year's Classic features top hunting celebrities like Pat Nicole Reeve of Driven TV, Melissa Bachman of Winchester Deadly Passion TV, and legendary bow hunter Barry Wenzel. Get your antlers scored, view more than 300 antler entries, and see the latest hunting products, plus a great lineup of lodges and outfitters. Learn more about the Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic, March 8th, 9th, and 10th at Canterbury Park in Shakopee at mndeerclassic.com.
Lake of the Woods, the walleye capital of the world, is calling out to you. From the northwest angle to the South Shore and Rainy River, this is the Midwest's #1 ice fishing destination. Walleyes, sauger, perch, northern pike, and eelpout. The fishing on Lake of the Woods is like a world of its own. Experience the most amazing fishing through one of the many full-service resorts featuring heated fish houses, ice transportation, meal plans, and sleeper fish house options. For more information, go to lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
This is Sporting Journal Radio. I'm Bret Amundson. Thanks for tuning in on the radio network by demand. Maybe you subscribe to the podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much. Along with Dan Amundson and Joe Henry joining us now on the show from Lake of the Woods Tourism. Joe, how are things?
I tell you what, ice is progressing. We're finally getting the cold weather that we've been asking for a while, and hey, better late than never, as they'd say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's about time. Things are fine. I finally am getting all my ice fishing gear ready, so the timing is about perfect. And maybe I've been putting it off since it's been a little bit warm. But that nice cold stretch sure firmed some things up, and things are happening up at Lake of the Woods, it sounds like.
Yeah, they are happening. Well, I'll tell you. So First off, progress is being made on the ice roads. You know, again, you hear me say this over and over, but every ice road is different based on how much weight they allow out, what kind of vehicles, when they allow them out, how far out they're going. Each road is its own road. But I can tell you that some of the ice roads have finally started allowing half-ton vehicles pulling a wheelhouse, a certain size wheelhouse. And some have even allowed, I think, 3/4-ton trucks with no wheelhouse. So that's good news. Again, check with the resort or outfitter that you're planning on going out on the road. But check on the rules and regulations before you go, as far as weight limits and restrictions and things, and then adhere to them. Don't go motoring off the trail and searching out your own ice. This isn't the year for it. No year is the year for it. This certainly isn't the year for it. There are some cracks and some different areas of ice that we don't want people driving on. And then, of course, the other thing that's kind of a progression in the wintertime is the ice bars that we have up at Lake of the Woods. So one of them out of Zipple Bay Resort is the Igloo Bar. And the Igloo Bar is out and it's open, and which is pretty exciting. And, if you haven't been to the Igloo Bar or heard of it, it's about 2 to 3 miles out of Zipple Bay Resort. There's a real good plowed road out there. And, when you take that main highway out, it's like a highway. It's plowed. It's really wide. And then when you get out there a little ways, normally that Igloo Bar is a great big sign that says Igloo Bar. You make a right turn on that side road and you can see it out there all lit up. Or if it's during the day, you can just see it from the road. And you get out there, the bar itself is 1,000 square feet. It's got almost a full bar in it. It's got a partial hot menu. They normally have some different hot food offerings. It's got an instant cash machine in the bar on the ice. It's got 2 big screen TVs. And oh, by the way, you can actually ice fish in the bar. It's like $5 an hour for a hole. And I always kid around, it's like, how many bartenders, have a fresh bucket of minnows behind the bar every day? Yeah. And the Igloo Bar is one of them, But I'll tell you, you guys, every year, Jenny is one of the main bartenders there. And, when she comes in at noon, usually, she'll put a sucker minnow down right away. And each year she'll catch multiple pike that are over 40 inches, which is usually about a 20-pound fish. She gets some hogs, just some pigs. And then she also gets usually some nice walleyes. People that are coming in there and angling will also catch some pike and some walleyes, and it's kind of funny. I mentioned to Nick Panovich, the owner of Zipple Bay Resort, I said, Nick, it gets kind of festive in there when somebody catches a walleye. He goes, you should see what happens when somebody loses one. I hear it gets pretty festive, and
Joe, I like how you called it an instant cash machine. Like remember when, because it was the old orange ones were the first ones, and we called them all instant cash, but that was the brand of the machine. It's like calling them all tissues Kleenex, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I guess it shows my age, but I guess they're an ATM machine. Is that what you call it, an ATM?
Yeah, cash machine, ATM, but the old Instant Cash. I remember having to drive around, look for the signs at the gas stations. If it had the orange Instant Cash sign, I could get money there. Oh, there it is, ATM.
You can see it. There's an ATM sign, Brett, and they did that just for you to make sure things are good, But you're 100% right about that, and it's fun. That Igloo Bar. The other thing that's kind of funny about that Igloo Bar, I think, is they have little porta potties that are like little heated. They look like little heated igloos, and they do heat them. And I said that the owner Nick, I said, Nick, how come you heat your porta potties? He goes, I'll tell you what happened. Some of my female friends were giving me a hard time because the toilet seats were so cold in that women's porta potty that I started heating the women's. Well, then all the guys started using the women's. Now I got to heat them both.
Well, you gotta like having a heated. I like having a heated bathroom anytime. Honestly, but
it is nice. It's just kind of another novelty. They have a fire pit right outside, on the ice, and it's just kind of a neat thing to go to. Some people snowmobile out there. Some people just drive out there and have a couple of drinks, and some people that are fishing in that area will go in there, and it just it's a real festive crowd. It's a real festive environment. They usually have if there's a game on at night, like a wild game or something, they'll have that going at night. And it's just kind of fun. Otherwise, they have hunting and fishing shows during the day, and fun atmosphere. And then, of course, the other one, we have a second ice bar now, too. That's called the Angry Walleye. And the Angry Walleye is out of Cyrus Resort, out of the Bostic Bay area, kind of over by Morris Point area. And, again, you can drive out to that one as well. And that's just a little ways out. It's not real far out. And, again, they're kind of famous for their homemade pizzas from Cyrus Resort. They make homemade pizza there in their pizza ovens, and again, it's just a fun atmosphere. A lot of people will come in as they're coming in off the ice to to have their favorite bump, and then other people make that as a destination. Well, they'll actually drive out. And maybe they're staying at a different resort, and they'll decide, hey, let's buzz over to the Angry Walleye, let's buzz over to the Igloo and go and have a couple drinks out there before we go grab dinner.
I just got my snowmobile fired up here too. We finally got enough snow for it, and hopefully its snow sticks around. I might have to go north to get on any snow here pretty soon to ride around a little bit. But you could go up there with your sled too and take all those trails out to the those ice bars, even if you're not fishing, right?
Well, 100%. Yeah. In fact, this year is kind of a tough snow year around the Midwest, as we know, and we do have snow up north, and we also have the trails that go all around the lake. So, there's a trail that goes up the east side of the lake. There's a trail that goes up the west side of the lake. I don't know if that trail that goes from Arneson's Rocky Point and War Road up to the Northwest Angle. I'm not sure if that one's open. You'll have to check the Northwest Angle Edge Riders Snowmobile Facebook page. But I can tell you that the trail that goes from the Wheelers Point, Pine Island area, up that east boundary up to the Northwest Angle is wide open. The trails up at the Angle are, the Snowmobile Club down on the south end, the Drifters, Lake of the Woods Drifters, does a great job of maintaining the trails both on the ice and on land on the south end of Lake of the Woods. That's one of the things, Bret. Our fishing is so good that overshadows everything else. But man, our snowmobiling is kind of a best kept secret up there because everybody fishes. But boy, we got the great trails, two very active snowmobile clubs. We got Wilderness, we got the lake. They groom them, they stake them. And then, of course, we got the resorts that are along the way, which makes snowmobile riding pretty fun. And, there's always a place to stop and get gasoline or food or drink or whatever your fancy is. And it's just kind of a neat atmosphere up there. Bret, you and I mean, we've done the snowmobile thing up to the Northwest Angle, if you remember. And,
I remember.
That was a fun trip.
Yeah, I remember. It was like 25 below zero.
Well, remember the funny thing was we were shooting that Prairie Sportsman TV show. Yeah. And, of course, I think your cameraman, it was his first venture with Prairie Sportsman. So what do? We put him on a snowmobile. We had brand new Polaris snowmobiles that were just awesome. And it was 25 below zero, and we went 42 miles across Lake of the Woods, 25 below, up to the Northwest Angle. It's like, welcome to Prairie Sportsman.
Right. And it was wild because the ice, I remember, formed a little bit rough that year, too. So the trail kind of wound through these big, ice chunks that were jutting up into the air. And it was, if you went up the trail, it could actually get a little bit dangerous. But
it was if you stayed on the trail and just kind of weaved around, it was kind of interesting. It was kind of pretty. If you'd be going 50 miles an hour off the trail and ran into that kind of ice, it wouldn't be good. But, obviously you're supposed to stay on the trail and be responsible. But those ice shards sticking up. And, of course, for the people that are listening, if you're not aware, the way that happens is you might get, 4, 5, 6 inches of ice early. And then if you get a huge wind and things let loose, now all of a sudden that ice is piling up and getting forced on top of one another, and it piles up real high, and it's almost like I don't know, nature's sculptures out on the ice. I mean, there was pieces of ice going really high in the air. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it was wild, and if it hadn't been 35 below wind chill or whatever it was when we were doing it, we probably would have stopped and filmed it a little bit. But we were definitely on a schedule and trying to get up there. That was a fun trip, and of course caught a bunch of fish up there at the Angle and got to hang out at the Northwest Angle.
I remember even the filming we did with the snowmobiles and how you were flying that drone over the sleds and we were driving them. I mean, the whole thing was great. And I remember we had a real good fish fry up at, I think we stayed at Sportsman's Oak Island that time, but I think we had a really good fish fry up there, and it was just kind of a fun trip. One thing I'll say too is that when you do a trip like that, you're going 42 miles across Lake of the Woods, and that's pretty. I mean, they have bombers run on that once in a while, but there's no guarantee the bomber's going to be coming your way anytime soon. Depends on their schedule, and you got to be careful. You got to have. It's good to have two riders. It's good to have your cell phones charged up. You don't want any exposed skin if it's real cold like that. And if you remember, Bret, we'd drive for a little ways, and then we'd all stop to make sure everybody was good. And then we'd just keep on going,
Right. Well, when we were hauling a bunch of camera gear up there, too, and so Dylan was driving a little bit slower, hauling all the gear, which is important, of course. So we had those brand new Polarises, Joe, and all I wanted to do was open them up.
Yeah.
Dang it. Come on, Dylan. God dang, but we made her.
I was so happy we had those because number one, they were smooth, they're comfy. Yeah. Boy, you know what? When it's 20 something below and you turn that key and they start,
started right up. Yeah, That's one of the best feelings in ice fishing.
Maybe
which you'll see in our poll that you can find at sportingjournalradio.com. And Joe, you can take part in that too if you want to. Tell us what you feel is the best feeling when you're out there ice fishing. Check it all out. And Joe, I know we're coming up there in a couple of weeks with a glow trip. Are you planning to be up there with us?
You know what? Hit and miss with my schedule. I'm sure going to try to be, but things are always moving and shaking, so we'll see. But I tell you, the last couple of years you guys have been up, it's been so much fun. And we normally with the glow we get some outdoor media that maybe haven't been to Lake of the Woods for a while coming up, and it's just you're creating story ideas. So you're working together, you're fishing, you're experiencing Lake of the Woods, and of course these are outdoor media, so they're either doing videos or writing about it or social media, whatever the case might be. But like-minded people rubbing elbows together, it's really a enjoyable experience. And there's always some good stuff being produced when people like that get together up there.
Well, we're looking forward to being up there. Hopefully you can join us, Joe. But if you can't, and if other people can't be up there when we're there and they want to plan a trip to Lake of the Woods, what should they do?
Hey, you know what? We have everything on our website. Lots of information, all the resorts, days, fishing, everything. That website is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Macaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com.